All right, we're live. Welcome to Upright Live. Today's a special Upright Live. We are streaming directly to YouTube. So thank you for joining. If you are someone who's just popping on just for the free class on YouTube, welcome. A little bit about Upright Live. So Chris and I created this class because we were seeing that so many of the people that come into Upright Health that we work with as clients, we're having the same problems. We see hundreds collectively through Upright Health. We've seen over 1,000 clients, and we see the same patterns coming up consistently. So we created a class so that we could address these issues very simply and effectively to as many people as we could at one time. So hopefully you get some from this class. If you enjoy it, please check out the link. Think about joining us for months to come. Just so you know what's happening, if you are joining us for the first time, in this class is going to be an hour class where we're going to go through a program that is already written out, and our members receive the program each month, and there's a new program each month. This month we're working on back to the basics. So lucky you're gonna see what our bread and butter at Upright Health is. These are the fundamental movements that we teach every single person that comes in the door. So we're gonna go through the program step by step. It's just follow along. I'm gonna be guiding you through the whole thing. And so hopefully, you won't get lost. If you do, you can rewatch this. That's the nice thing about YouTube. You'll be able to watch this as many times as you want. Cool, so equipment. You're gonna need things you will definitely need. Something soft to lay on. Some sort of hip band. So these are mini bands. These are the conventional ones. These are some cool ones that clasp on. And ideally, if you could have some sort of regular band. These are these big circular super bands. You could also use TheraBands. Those are those flat ones. You could use tubing, anything like that. Those are the only things you're really gonna need. Oh, and also, sorry, something to sit on. But those are the only things you're really gonna need. It would be helpful if you could have an ankle weight, maybe some props. These are yoga blocks. If you could have maybe even like textbooks or something around, that could be helpful. And then some sort of resistance could be helpful as well, because we're going to be doing some movements like squats. So you might want some resistance. Other than that, just bring your body, bring a good attitude, and we'll get to it. So the way this is going to work, we're going to go through each exercise. I will explain what the exercise is, explain what you should be feeling, and then we're gonna put on a timer and you're gonna go for it. As the timer's going, I'm gonna help you, guide you through what you should be feeling and maybe caution you from what you shouldn't be feeling. So just casually pay attention as you work through it. Make sure you are keeping yourself safe. You should not feel any pain during any of these exercises. No pain. If you feel discomfort, that may be okay. Definitely no pain, okay? If you are feeling pain, either stop the exercise or back off the intensity. Make the range of motion smaller, maybe put a little less effort in, and see if you can find a level that doesn't hurt you, okay? If you have questions, we have a little chat box there. Go ahead and write your questions in. If it's something that needs to be on the spot addressed, I'll address it right away. If it's something that isn't quite as pressing, maybe it's a little bit more of a personal question or something like that, we're gonna save time at the end of class to go over those. So don't worry if your question doesn't get answered immediately. It might get answered later. And also if it doesn't get answered immediately, maybe you could re-ask your question at the end of class. Chris is gonna be looking through all the questions, but he's not perfect, neither am I, so we might not remember your question at the end of class, so put it in that chat box again and maybe we'll get to it. Cool. I can't guarantee we'll get to all the questions though. There's gonna be quite a few and we only got so much time. let's get to some exercising. So let's start out with we're gonna do a super simple exercise called a sitting banded clamshell. So you're gonna sit down on something, a box, a chair, a couch, and you're gonna put your band either right above or right below your knee. Bam. So I like to go, actually we go right below the knee. Sometimes it rides up if I don't. Key point to this exercise. You're gonna put your feet facing forward and make sure that your big toe knuckle stays completely planted on the ground the entire time, because we're gonna be doing this exercise and the temptation is gonna be to roll to the outside of the foot. Do not let it happen. Make sure big toe knuckle stays firmly planted on the ground. Then, very simple exercise. All you're gonna do is stretch that band out. We're gonna hold for 2 seconds at the top and come back in. Here's what I want you thinking about. I want you thinking about pulling your knees apart. Pull them apart. Don't push, pull. Because what we're going after is your glute max, big muscle on the backside. You should be feeling a lot of that. Cool? We're gonna do this one for 60 seconds. Ready? Let's go. So, feet firmly planted, pulling the knees apart, pausing for 2 seconds at the top, and slowly coming in. Through all of these exercises today, there should be no fast, jerky movements. We're thinking all of these exercises are corrective exercises. We want everything to be super intentional. There should be no unintentional movement. So if I let go, boom, and do that, that's unintentional. I want to be under control the entire time. So for every single exercise today, slow and controlled. Getting close to the end here. Hopefully your butt's starting to burn. I know mine is. And go ahead and relax. Nice work. Okay. Now, if that exercise was something that you've done before, this next one is probably something that you have not done before. So you're gonna ideally take your ankle weight. I'm gonna show the ideal version first, and then I'll show the workaround if you don't have an ankle weight. So you're gonna take your ankle weight, put it on your ankle. And what we're doing is called a reverse clamshell. So you're gonna put your knee up on that surface you were sitting on, or if that's too high, you can take a yoga block and place your knee on your yoga block. Whatever you have, it should be about 6 inches to about 1.5 feet tall. The higher you go, the harder this is. So you'll place your knee up on the surface. Your hip should be bent anywhere from 60 to 90 degrees. 90 would be about here, 60 here, somewhere in the middle, okay? Again, another very simple exercise. All we're gonna do is lift that foot as high as you can. Hold for 2 seconds and come back down. Hold for 2 seconds and come back down. You should feel a ton of stuff happening on the side of the hip. Make sure you're not getting a lot of hip movement, pelvis movement. So I don't want to see the pelvis rocking this way up towards the ribs. It needs to be away from the ribs. If you don't have an ankle weight, simply take that band that you had around your knees in the last exercise, put it around your feet, and then put a yoga block or something similar between your knees. And now we can do the same exact exercise, lifting, hold for 2 seconds, and relax. Okay? Pretty simple. Make sure, number one, make sure no pelvis movement. If you need to, stick your hand right on that hip bone and make sure it's not moving. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna do 45 seconds on each side. Chris, let's start the timer. Go. Do it with the ankle weight. All right, so this exercise, you should be feeling a lot of stuff happen on the outside of the hip. Say hello to your glute medius, okay? So not your glute max, not the big butt muscle on the back. Your glute medius is up on the side of your hip. For those of you who deal with a lot of pain and discomfort in your hips, a lot of times there's a big avoidance of using this muscle. So getting it to turn on can have a huge alleviating effect. Getting close to the end. And take a break. We'll switch sides. Give you some time to get switched and set up here. All right. Hopefully you're all set up for this other side. Let's get 45 seconds on the clock and go. Don't worry if you fall behind. Again, you can re-watch. This video will be immortalized on YouTube. Make sure you're pausing at the top for 2 seconds. I just forgot to do that, so don't worry if you're forgetting. Remember now. And as this starts to feel more comfortable, it's probably uncomfortable for a lot of you who've never done it, but as it starts to feel more comfortable, you can really start to squeeze and see if there's more range of motion in that top position, as long as there's no pain. All right, we're done with 45. Okay, we're gonna take that hip band one more time, these mini bands. Getting a lot of use out of these today. You're gonna take that band, put it around your feet, okay? Now everyone just watch first. Band goes around the feet, ideally right in the middle of the foot, midfoot. You're gonna lie on your back, okay? Now, with this exercise, if your neck, I don't want your neck to be the limitation here. So if you need to put your hands behind your head to help, or rest your head on the ground, that's totally fine. I'm gonna show a version that doesn't do that, but just do that if you're feeling any neck stuff. So we're gonna try to tighten up the core. I like to actually fully lift the shoulders off the ground because it really just makes sure my core is super, super, super tight, okay? Now from here, knees slightly past the hips towards my chest, okay? If they need to be here because of any sort of discomfort, fine, but ideally on this side. Now, all you do is lock one leg into place. This knee is not gonna move. I'm just gonna start to push this other leg away. And see how I maintained the same angle here. And then I come back and switch, maintaining the same angle here. So even though this other leg is moving, what I'm focusing on is this leg that's not moving, okay? I'm locking this hip into place. What we're working on is the strength of the core and the hip flexors at the same time. So really lock that into place, okay? So again, pretty simple exercise. Try to keep the shoulders off the ground. It really helps keep the core engaged. You should not have any space under the back. If you start to push away and your back starts to come off the ground, big no-no, okay? You're defeating the purpose of this exercise. So keep the core engaged, back flat, push away. It could potentially, if you're feeling real strong, you can push all the way out. So whatever level you're at, figure it out. Let's go ahead and do 60 seconds here. Ready? And go. Move slow and controlled. Again, no jerky motions. Everything needs to be intentional. Hands behind the head if the neck gets tired. If you want to be real crazy, you can like really sit up as far as you can. This makes it quite a bit harder. It's a different challenge to try to rest the head on the ground. It's challenging in a different way. Slow and controlled. Your core muscles should be burning by now. Also, I didn't mention this before, but if these times are too long for you, if you need to cut it short, that's no problem. That means you're getting the benefit of the exercise like already. Take a break. You're getting it sooner than the time frame I'm giving you. Fine, great. You're accomplishing what you need to accomplish. All right. We're gonna do each of those exercises one more time, starting with the sitting clamshell. So we're going back to our seat, band around the knees, feet firmly plant on the ground. Now, since you already did this once, you got a good idea what's happening. If you want to make this harder, a couple things you can do. First off, put your feet wider, increases the range of motion right off the bat, makes it definitely harder. Or vice versa, if it was too hard, put your feet closer together. Cool. Other thing you could do, lean forward more. So keeping the spine still straight, but tipping at the hips forward can make this more specifically on the glutes. You might get better glute burn. Okay, let's go. 60 seconds. Get it going, Chris. Remember, we're pausing for 2 seconds at that peak contraction. And now that you know what you're doing, see if you can increase the range of motion just a little bit more. Once you get there, get to that top position and squeeze a little bit further. Remember to keep the feet planted. I don't want to see you rolling to the outside of your foot. By the way, there's a reason we do that. If there is a limitation there where you can't do that, you can't keep your big toe knuckle on the ground, it probably means you got some funky feet stuff going on. So your feet can't actually accommodate that position. So you might be losing your arch. You might not have the integrity there, the foot strength to actually push, take a break. And that's probably coming up in other places if something as simple as this is hard. Take a break, by the way. We're moving on to the next reverse clam. So if that is something that's difficult for you, keep that in mind. It's gonna come up when we move to our squats later, okay? Reverse clam, I'll do this one with a band. So that's the one where your ankle weight was on or you had the band around your feet. I'll do this one with the band. Okay, so we're doing 45 seconds on each side. Let's get started. So with this one, again, as I mentioned before, you should be feeling the outside of that hip turn on. Those are the muscles that should be holding you up every step you take. When you go onto one foot, those muscles have to work really hard on the outside of the hip to make sure you don't collapse, okay? So you should have really strong glute medius. Also, this is a range of motion that a lot of people who deal with hip impingement, a lot of times this side hip shuts off. And so this is something that can have really immediate payoff for you. Just starting to work on this regularly. Getting close to the end. And rest. Switch sides. Guess I didn't need to take that off. Give you a few more seconds to get set here. All right, 45 seconds on the other side. Let's go. Another sensation that comes up here, if you're having a really hard time not hiking the hip to make this motion happen, then you're probably someone who deals with that hip hike in other places and you may be unaware of it. So it could literally be every single step you take, you go through a little bit of a hip hike where the side of the pelvis comes up towards the ribs. Okay, that can present as problem or just in general is not a good pattern to have. You're probably losing your effectiveness on other exercises because of it. So this is a great exercise to really focus on freeing up that hip so that, take a break, freeing up the hip joint so it doesn't have to always move with the pelvis. Your hip joint, the ball and socket, should be able to move freely while your pelvis stays stable, okay? So that's a great exercise to accomplish that. Let's go back to the psoas march. I don't even know if I said the name earlier. That's the one with the band around the feet lying on the back. And we're gonna go 60 seconds. Remember, low back needs to stay on the ground the entire time. Ready? Let's go. If your lower back is coming off the ground, you just need to shorten the range of motion. Maybe you're only working this much range of motion. That's fine. The goal is to keep the low back on the ground. Number one goal. Getting close to the end here. And take a break. All right. That was our first set of exercises done. Got a few more sets to get through. So this next set of exercises is going to be majority stretching. So with stretching, we treat stretching just like we do strength training. We like to make sure we're actually pushing into some intense range of motions. However, if you are new to any of these stretches, we don't do any, just as we wouldn't do this with strength training, we don't go straight into intensity. So if these are new to you, take it easy, work on the contractions that we're gonna go through, and don't focus on trying to get the deepest stretch you can. That will come in time. You just need to condition your body to get used to some of these sensations and get strong in the positions first. Okay, keep that in mind. Again, as I mentioned in the beginning, no pain. Definitely no pain. Okay, let's do it. So we're gonna do a butterfly stretch. For the butterfly, I would like it if you could sit against something. I'm gonna sit against the railing here. Chris, is this good for in camera? Okay. And with the butterfly, if you wanna prop yourself up, if you feel like getting into an actual butterfly position, which is this like open hip position, if that sounds really daunting to you, prop yourself up, sit on something. I'll start on a yoga block, show you guys what it looks like. And the way we're gonna do it is, I would like it if your feet are closer to your hips, whatever that means to you. So slightly uncomfortably close to your hips. And then we're gonna sit, okay? So now we're in a position somewhat like this. I would like it if your feet were pressed against each other, okay? So from here, here's what we're doing. Here's the action we're going for. This is a 3-part stretch. We're gonna go hands on the bottom first, under the knees, okay? And you are going to try to push your knees down to the ground, but your hands don't actually let your knees move. So we're creating an isometric contraction. We're pushing down with the knees and pulling up with the hands simultaneously. You should feel tons of stuff happen on the outside of the hip, maybe even in the groin, turn on to pull the knees out, okay? So we're gonna do that for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next, we're gonna put the hands on top of the knees and pull up. So now we're doing the same isometric contraction, but in the opposite direction. Hands are pushing down, knees are pulling up. The last piece of this is the actual stretch. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. The last piece, we're going to go into the stretch. Now, if you're someone who gets pain in this stretch, again, skip this part, or you can continue with a contraction. But here's what we're after. We're gonna push the knees down towards the ground and simultaneously actively try to pull the knees down to the ground with the muscles that we activated on that first contraction, right? Where I was trying to pull my knees to the ground, but I didn't let it happen. Now we're gonna do everything we can to pull those knees down, squeeze your butt, push with your hands, and that'll be that. We're gonna do that for 60 seconds, 5 in each direction. I'm gonna guide you through this one. So we're gonna all do this one together, okay? Let's go ahead. Chris, you can get our timer started. We're all gonna put our hands on the bottom of our knees. Ready? Let's go. Now push, 1, 2, feel your butt squeeze, 4, 5, good. Place your hands on top of your knees. Pull up with the knees, push down with the hands. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, try to pull your knees to the ground and push your knees to the ground. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, hands beneath the knees, pushing down. Let's go. 1, 2, squeeze your butt. 4, 5, hands on top of the knees. Let's go. Pulling up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now squeeze everything, get it down to the ground. 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go one more round. I know we're out of time, but we're gonna do it again. Hands beneath the knees. Ready, go. 1, 2, squeeze. 3, 4, 5. Hands on top of the knees. Pulling up with the knees. Ready, go. 1, squeeze. 2. You should feel your groin really light up here. 4, 5. Now push those knees to the ground. Pull the knees to the ground. Ready, go. 1, 2, squeeze. 3, 4, and 5. All right, take a break. That is the butterfly stretch. Again, keep yourself out of pain. If you're someone who experiences pain in that position, it's still a valuable position. You just need to keep working on those contractions really hard, okay? We've had a lot of people clear up pain just by turning on all the muscles in that position. This next exercise, you're gonna take your band, preferably the strongest band you have. So band, or if you don't have a band, grab a belt, a strap, anything like that, okay? So we're gonna do what's called a hamstring floss. You are going to take that band, put it closer to your forefoot. So midfoot would be kind of like right in the arch. Forefoot, we're thinking more about the pad of your foot, okay? So now you're gonna put that around the pad like this, bam. Now you got this, you're holding onto the band or strap, and you can actually create this pulling sensation, right? Okay, so here's what we're doing. We're gonna start with your knee as close as you can to your chest, okay? This other leg, I don't really care what it does. It can be on the ground like this, it could be flat, whatever, doesn't matter. Here's the action. Pull the knee to the chest, then straighten the knee all the way. I want that knee locked. I don't care if it looks like this. This exercise, it might look like this for some of you. I want you to try to straighten the knee with that foot as high or back as it can possibly go. And we're gonna take this nice and slow and controlled, straighten the knee, flex the quad, and then relax, pull the knee to the chest again. Straighten the knee, flex the quad, relax. And we're just gonna move in and out of that position for 45 seconds, okay? Ready? Let's do it. 45, go. Straighten, flex the quad, and relax. That stretch should be intense, but you only have to be there for a second, so it can be intense. If it goes right to the back of the knee, great. If you're feeling this in the back of the knee, you need to be doing this. This is the exercise for you. If you want extra, try to pull your toes back towards the shin. That'll make this even more intense. All right, take a break. Switch sides. Whew, shake it out a little bit if you need to. We're doing the other side. 45 seconds. Ready? Let's go. flex the quad. If you can even touch that quad to make sure it's flexing really hard. You should feel that muscle turn on to straighten the knee. Getting close to the end. There is a reflex we have where if you flex one side really hard, it turns off the other side. Take a break. So if we're stretching our hamstring, if you flex the front side of your leg, the quads, it actually reflexively helps the hamstring turn off. So we can use that to our advantage in something like that. If you really squeeze the front side, you'll actually get a better stretch on the back side. Okay, we're going back to the butterfly one more time. Again, use that prop if you need to. I'm actually going to ditch the prop this time. So I think since we're doing this one together, let's just skip the timer on this one, Chris, and I'll just guide it. All right. So remember, heels closer to your hips, whatever that means to you. Feet planted together. Now, if you are someone who you would consider as hypermobile in this position, where you get into it and your knees just flop down to the ground, there's a couple ways you can approach that. First, if you still want to get this stretch and you just can't get it from this position, then take a yoga block and actually put it between your feet so that your feet smash it together like that. That'll make this a lot more intense. But if you are someone who's super mobile like that, but you feel like you get, you're maybe more unstable, you feel like there's not a lot of tension that you can create there, I would say don't even worry about the stretch portion of this. Work on all these contractions really hard. You need to make sure you're stabilizing this position. You should have a lot of control. I should be able to put 50-pound dumbbells on your knees and you be able to lift them, okay? That's your goal. Okay, so let's do our next round of butterfly. Hands below the knees to start. 5 seconds. Ready? And go. Squeeze your butt. Try to pull your knees to the ground, but the hands don't let it go. And switch, hands on top of the knees. Try to pull your knees together. Go. Squeeze, you should feel your groin really working here. And now push those knees to the ground if you're ready for the stretch. Squeeze your butt to pull your knees to the ground. And relax. Take a break. We're gonna go another round. Ready? Hands beneath the knees. Squeeze, let's go. Try to pull your knees to the ground. 3, 4, 5. Hands on top of the knees. Try to pull your knees together. Resist it. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And stretch. Pull those knees to the ground. Push those knees to the ground. 3, 4, 5. Good. Let's go one more round here. Hands beneath the knees. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hands on top of the knees. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And stretch. Active stretch. Push with your hands. Pull with your butt muscles. And relax. All right. We are done with the butterfly stretch. We're going to do one more round of that hamstring flossing. Yep. So Audrey has a question about having a hard time getting the quads to turn on. So if you're having a hard time squeezing your quads, the sensation I want you going for is trying to hyperextend your knee. It's not gonna happen in this position, but that's how you're gonna really get the quad to turn on. So if you're someone who's, let me show really quickly. If you're straightening your knee and your knee's is looking like this is not straight. This is straight. And I see a lot of people doing this exercise. I teach this exercise all the time, and I tell people get their knee straight, and it looks like this. That's not straight. You gotta straighten the knee. And I don't care if to get the knee straight, you need more room. If you need to push all the way out here to do that, that's okay. People, it's not about how far your foot goes. Like that's not a metric of success in the moment. That's a metric of success over time, over months of working on this. Okay? So in the moment, lock that knee all the way. Okay? Let's do it. 45 seconds. Let's go. Lock the knee. Flex your quad. If you're someone who has chronically tight hamstrings, it's looking like this for you, you should start doing this nearly every day, most days of the week. Do one set of this. I guarantee you're going to free up some range of motion. Take a break. Switch sides. Every person should be able to touch their toes. And if you can't, you should be doing this all the time. Ready? Let's go. Also, if you're someone who has a hard time with this exercise and it all goes to the back of the knee, it's not just the hamstring, it's also the calf. So some conventional calf stretching, you know, the gym class special where you put your hands on the wall and you put your leg behind you and then just try to lean forward. That works. You should be stretching your calves too. All right. We are officially done with the stretching for the day. Hopefully that sounds nice. So we're moving on to the next set of exercises. This next set of exercises, we're going to do some strength stuff. So we're going to need to put the hands on the ground. We believe that everyone should be able to support their body weight in their hands on the ground. If you are someone who can't do that because of pain or weak wrists, you need to start doing this routine that we're going to go through to warm up our wrists. You start doing it daily, because that is a big problem if you cannot support your weight in your hands. Okay? So let's run through this together. Ideally, if you could put your hands on something more solid for this, the better. So if you're on something really cushiony like I am, I'm going to actually put my hands on the solid surface in front of it. Okay, knees still obviously supported. We're going to do some heel raises or wrist push-ups here, where my hand starts flat on the ground and then I raise so that my palm ends up coming as vertical as I can, effectively stretching the fingers, okay? And then we lower. And so this turns into a wrist push-up because I can put more weight into my hands and actually do a push-up with the muscles of my wrist. So I'm going to do this nice and slow and controlled. If it's feeling good, go ahead and start to put more weight into your hands. You can do that by rocking your shoulders forward or walking your knees backwards. Either one works. You should feel your wrist muscles getting used here. These forearm muscles right here. Okay, take a break. Let's flip the hands around. Now, fingers face towards your knees. This one might be really challenging for some of you. If it is, try putting your hands more to the side like this. So the stretch, we're gonna do a stretch here. The stretch is fingers facing towards my knees, and then I rock back gently, and you're gonna get a stretch all the way down, okay? Let's do that. I like to rock in and out, or you could potentially just hold. You could get here and just hold. That's up to you. Okay, and last one here, we're gonna put the back of the hand on the ground like this. And then you're just gonna try to straighten the elbow. And that's all it takes. You can keep the elbow bent and then just start to straighten it and then relax. And try to straighten it and relax. If that's really easy for you, try closing the fist. That will give you a little bit of a deeper stretch. Okay, so we prepared the wrists. We're gonna be using the hands in a sec. So the next exercise though is the squat. So again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, we think that the squat is one of the fundamental movements that humans need to be able to do. So here's the keys to squatting. Ditch that. So we want the feet to face more forward. So whatever that means to you. Again, if your feet like to go like this when you squat, there's nothing wrong with that. Ideally, over time, we could get them to face a little more forward. Okay? The reason is we want the knees to be able to go towards the toes. Ideally, second or third toe. Okay? And so if you're squatting with your feet turned out like this, that means your hips need to be very open because I need to get my knees to face towards my toes. But if my feet face more forward, now there's a little more leeway. I have a lot of room to be able to sit down and my knees still face my toes. Right? Secondly, we want the spine to be neutral, straight, whatever you want to call it. We just don't want to see huge deviations of the spine mechanics as you're squatting. So ideally, when I'm squatting, if you're doing it body weight, hands are going to be in front. I'm going to descend, trying to get my hips to move back and down. And really, I just want them to move back as far enough as they need to start moving down. Okay? So I'm back and down, but notice my spine shape does not change a whole lot as I get deeper, right? Here's what a bad one would look like. I would go into the dumping dog position, right? Or this shape, equally as bad, Instagram booty, right? Where I go straight into big arch in the back and go Instagram booty duck face, right? Don't want that either. We want to try and keep the spine as neutral as possible. So if you need to, look in a mirror, set up a camera next to you. You really need to make sure you're getting the spine mechanics of the squat. That's one of the biggest things the squat can teach us, is how to keep the spine in the same position through different overall orientations, right? Okay, so last piece here. Let's go ahead and, so hands are gonna be in front. Squeeze your butt. That's gonna help you get a lot of support from the in the hips, in the spine. So squeeze your butt from the beginning. We're gonna be focusing on keeping the butt tight the whole time. Squeeze your butt. That's gonna help you get your knees out over your toes. And I also, again, want to reiterate, I don't want this pattern. I want my hips to go back only as far as they need to start going down, okay? I don't want to see this squat. Cool? If you want to add weight, grab a dumbbell, grab a kettlebell, whatever, hold it up top like this. Yeah, that's the only way we're gonna load it. Cool. We're gonna go for 60 seconds on the squat. I want at least a 1 second pause at the bottom. Ready? Let's go. 1 second pause, and then quicker on the way up, slower on the way down, pause, quicker on the way up, whatever that means to you. Oh, I forgot to say, that's what I was gonna say. If it sounds crazy to you to try to do squats without any assistance, just go ahead, wrap a band around something and hold on to it. This will give you just the smallest amount of assistance to help you get a little bit deeper. Cool. Getting close to the end here. Probably got time for 1 or 2 more reps. Squeeze your butt and rest. All right. Take a break from those. We're doing some scap push-ups. So grab onto your pad. Scap push-up is all about scapular movement. Your scapulae are your shoulder blades. Those things in the back that can move all around, right? So we're gonna be focusing on what's called protraction of the shoulder blade, where the shoulder blades move apart, okay? So that's what we're doing. We're gonna put the hands on the ground. We can start on the knees first. And now here's the movement. I allow my shoulder blades to come back together, retracted, almost like you're pinching something between your shoulder blades. And then I push them as far apart as I can. And I can even round my upper back to get there, okay? And then I retract and push. That is the scap push-up. If I want to make it harder, I go into a full push-up position. Makes sense? Hopefully it does. We're gonna do 30 seconds. Ready? Let's go. Squeeze and push. Get those shoulder blades apart. Even when you think you've done enough, there's more, I guarantee it. So really get there and then squeeze. Squeeze. Notice my spine shape. I'm not saggy in my spine. Also, my hips aren't up high. Trying to go plank, no matter if my knees are on the ground or not. All right, take a break. So we're back to our squats.
Heels have to stay down during squat.
That is a great question. What was the name? Carrie? Carrie. Great question. So Carrie's question is, do your heels need to stay down when you squat? In our squat we're doing right now, yes, they do. Great question though, because I forgot to mention this. The ankles. Oh, we talked about the ankles earlier. We talked about the feet in the clamshell. So the ankles should be able to bend like this. See how my knee can go pretty far forward there? If your ankles don't bend that way, then your squat is not gonna look like my squat where I can sit down with my knees forward. So, really quick fix, put your heels up on something elevated, like this. So, my heel being elevated allows me to use a little bit more range of motion from the rest of my body because my ankle isn't restricting my pattern, okay? So if you're someone who has an issue with that, actually, I'd say most people should just try this right now. Give yourself like a book under your heels and see what happens. Anywhere from like 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Give that a try. Now, also talking about that clamshell, the reason we warm up with the clamshell where you move your knees out for the squat is because that's exactly what should happen in your squat. So, squatting, open, creating that rotation and keeping the foot, a lot of pressure in that big toe knuckle. Not the big toe knuckle, okay, 4-foot. So open the hips, sit. Let's do 60 seconds again. Ready? And let's go. Squeeze your butt, open the hips, sit. Pause at the bottom, quicker on the way up. You should be feeling your butt muscles work really hard here. If you're not, manually squeeze them. Clench your butt. That works fine. You need to teach yourself that your butt should be working when you do this. And so you need to manually turn them on if it doesn't automatically happen. Keep going. Oh, we're done. Take a break. All right, we're going back to that scap push-up. How are we doing on time, Chris? 50? Okay. All right, scap push-up. We're doing 30 seconds again. Ready? And go. Try to tuck your tailbone, squeeze your butt. Notice the spine shape again. We're not saggy. Tuck that tailbone. Remember, even when you think you've gone far enough, there's more. I guarantee it. Every time I do this, I know that there's always a little bit more. And take a break. All right. We're done with those. Moving on to the last set of exercises. Almost done today. So this last set of exercises, we're starting with the deadlift, okay? The deadlift is an intimidating name for an intimidating exercise, but we, again, think it's one of the most fundamental movements we could teach someone when they walk in our door. Here's why. We need to know how to use the hips to generate force and not use the spine. So, not to say that generating force from your spine is always wrong, but if you can't do that, that's a big problem. So, we want to make sure we can use our hips to lift something and keep our spine safe by keeping it in this nice, safe, more neutral, straight, whatever you want to call it, position. Okay? So here's the mechanics of the deadlift. And we don't need weight. We're just thinking about the pattern of the deadlift. We're going to send the hips backwards and my spine shape stays the same. As my hips move back, my knees just bend to accommodate my hips going back. So I'm not locking my knees. And also my knees aren't coming forward because that's a squat. They actually just stay in the same place. So I send the hips back and my spine stays in the same shape and come up. Very simple pattern and yet surprisingly very difficult to master. So if you're someone who's having a hard time just patterning this, this is all you're working on. I like to make sure my spine stays the same shape. So I'll put a hand on my belly and a hand on my chest, and those should not move apart or together as I go down. They should stay the same distance from each other as I move into my hip hinge. Simple way to do that, okay? If you feel comfortable with that, try adding a little bit of weight. You can use a dumbbell, a kettlebell, whatever. Notice if I'm holding my kettlebell like this, see how the weight moves straight down and lands in between my feet. It does not go in front. Big no-no. That means you loaded your spine and not your hips. We're trying to send the hips back so that all the tension goes to the back of the leg, back of the hip, butt, hamstring, cool? If you don't have any weights and you want to make this a little harder, grab a band, stand on it, and then whoop, grab onto the edges of the band. Pretty simple. You can get a good amount of load there, okay? So let's go for 45 seconds with the deadlift. Ready? Let's go. Remember, I don't care if you're doing any weight. This is a fundamental pattern. You're learning how to use your hips. Send the hips back. Squeeze your butt. Your butt muscles are the strongest muscles in your body. At least they should be. Maybe they aren't for you. If they're not, this is a great exercise. So, you should be using them. If you are not, you are shifting weight elsewhere. You're shifting tension elsewhere. And that can be a recipe for some sort of dysfunction, which can lead to pain, injury, loss of power, take a break. So, very fundamental movement. Okay, next, take one of your bands, attach it to something in front of you. Very simple exercise, the exact opposite of what we did before. We're working on scapular retraction. So we start with that band tension in front, and all you do is pull your shoulder blades together in the back and then let them come forward, okay? Pretty simple exercise. The only thing that I want to make sure people are not doing is this. Squeezing up towards the ears. Make sure those shoulder blades stay down and come back. Down and back. Ready? Let's go for 45 seconds and go. 45, squeeze. And then let the shoulder blades come all the way forward. You can even round the upper back and squeeze and round. Just make sure you're moving nice and slow. You should feel a lot of tension between the shoulder blades. Getting close here, a few more reps. 58. All right. So normally we do one more set of deadlifts, one more set of those, but we're running out of time. So if you want to do them on your own, feel free. That's I would recommend it. We got to wrap it up. So we're going to get to some questions, if there are any, about any of the exercises or just Upright Live in general. Am I too close? Cool. All right, Chris, what do we got?
So Sharon says that she loses engagement of the glutes when she starts to squat.
Okay, great question, Sharon. So Sharon asked, so what to do if she loses engagement of the glutes when she starts her squat? So what I'd recommend is trying to do your squats with that band around your knees and thinking about that same cue we talked about with the clamshell, where you consider pulling the knees apart rather than just trying to push. That could help you keep your glutes engaged. And maybe your squat literally looks like this. You just are doing this just to make sure you can keep your butt on when you first start your squat, okay? And then slowly over time, start to work a little bit deeper and see if you can still keep your butt on and incrementally get there. Cool? Good question. Any more?
Someone was saying, so what you're saying is that it's better to elevate your heels to go lower just to keep your heels flat and not be able to squat as low?
Oh, I see what they're saying. Yeah, okay. So the question is it better to raise the heel to get a little bit deeper than to keep the heel on the ground and maybe not go quite as deep? So it's a good question, and there's not a clear answer to that question because that's going to be taken on an individual basis. Here's some guidance I can give you. If when you put your something under your heel, you go significantly deeper, I would say work on squats with your heel up on something, And also simultaneously, you should be working on your ankle range of motion, because that's a big, if that's the biggest limitation to your squat, then that's something you need to clear up. Cool. And I'm sure you can find videos. I'm sure we have videos. Other people have great videos about working on ankle range of motion. If the difference between having your heel up and not having your heel up is pretty negligible, maybe like a few inches of depth, then I would say don't raise your heels. Continue just working with your heels on the ground and trying to just keep working on pushing deeper. Cool? Great question.
Dan says that in the SOAS March, he got really, really shaky and it was hard to move smoothly. Do you think he needs to go to a weaker band or go shorter to start?
Is it Dan Signal?
Fitch.
Dan Fitch? Okay, different Dan. Dan, that's a shaky is good. So I guess I didn't say that at all today in class, but that's something that comes up regularly. If you're finding spots that you're shaky in, that's the exact spot you need to working on. So congratulations, you found the thing you need to work on. It depends on the amount of shakiness. So like if it literally looks like this, then yeah, maybe drop down a bit. But if it's like those small shakes, I'd say keep working on that band, and I would say only within a couple workouts that's going to start to smooth out. Okay, and your goal will be then to go up to the next band to where you're shaky again and start working there. Good question, Dan. Cool. That's it for the day. So again, we do this every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. If you want to check us out, I'm sure Chris has put links all over the place. We also are offering a 2-week trial at the moment. So if you want to get on, that way you can see what the program looks like. The program has clickable links. So if you were just joining us today for YouTube, what you did not get is every person who subscribes to Upright Live has already seen each of those exercises from the program. They get a clickable link where there's a video of me or someone else explaining the exercise. So they came in with a little bit of background knowledge today. So if you want to go check that out, again, free 2-week trial, go check out the program. We have a community where people can post and talk to each other.
They still have questions?
Yeah, and so if you still have questions about like today's program, anything from today or even, in the past programs, go on our community, and that's where people post all kinds of questions. There's all kinds of cool conversations to have on there. People are posting progress, updates and things like that. So it's really fun for all of us. Hope to have you on board. If you're already on board, I'll see you next week. All right. Later.